Close your eyes for a moment, not to escape the world, but to meet the one force that has been shaping your entire life without asking your permission, your subconscious mind. Every decision you've made, every relationship you've entered, every opportunity you took or avoided, every habit you repeat, every fear you carry, every limit you believe. It did not start with logic. It started with programming. Invisible scripts installed long before you were aware you were being programmed. And here is the uncomfortable truth. You are not living your full potential, not because you lack intelligence, not because you lack opportunity, not because you lack motivation, but because you are running mental software you did not consciously choose. Software built from repetition, emotion, environment, authority figures, early experiences, cultural conditioning. And until you rewrite that internal code, you will keep producing predictable results. Different goals, same patterns. Different motivation, same ceiling. Different year, same emotional cycles. This is not a motivational recording. This is a re-engineering process. Over the next hours, you are not just going to listen. You are going to observe, interrupt, install, upgrade. This is about mental architecture, identity reconstruction, emotional regulation, wealth conditioning, discipline installation, and long-term psychological dominance. You will understand how programming happens, why willpower fails, why fear loops repeat, why self-sabotage feels automatic, and how to permanently shift your baseline identity. Not temporarily, not emotionally, permanently. But understand something clearly before we begin. Nothing changes unless you decide it does. This recording will not work if you treat it as background noise. It will work if you engage with it as mental training. So breathe slowly. Inhale through your nose. Exhale longer than you inhale. That extended exhale signals safety to your nervous system. Safety allows openness. Openness allows rewiring. We begin now. The architecture of your mind. Before you can reprogram your subconscious, you must understand how it is built. Most people imagine the mind as one thing, one voice, one decision maker. But in reality, your mind operates in layers. Two primary systems, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Your conscious mind is the thinker. It analyzes, judges, plans, calculates, questions. It is logical, deliberate, and slow. It represents a small percentage of your total mental processing. The subconscious mind, however, is different. It does not argue. It does not analyze. It does not debate. It executes. It stores emotional memory, behavioral patterns, conditioned responses, beliefs about identity, associations between events and feelings. And here is the most powerful realization. The subconscious does not care if something is true. It only cares if it is repeated with emotion. Repetition plus emotion equals installation. That is the formula. If a child repeatedly hears, "Money is hard to make," if that statement is delivered with stress, fear, frustration, the subconscious records it as truth, not opinion, truth. If a child repeatedly experiences criticism during mistakes, the subconscious does not record, "I made a mistake." It records, "I am not enough." If someone grows up in instability, their nervous system may install, "The world is unsafe."
And once installed, the subconscious begins filtering reality through that belief. Now imagine this. You consciously decide, I want to become wealthy. But subconsciously you carry, money creates stress. What happens? Internal conflict. You move forward, then unconsciously pull back. You take opportunity, then sabotage it. You earn, then overspend. You build momentum, then lose consistency. Not because you are weak, because your internal architecture is misaligned. The subconscious always wins long-term because it operates automatically. The conscious mind is the captain, the subconscious mind is the crew. But here is the problem. The crew has been steering the ship for years, while the captain was distracted. And now the captain wakes up one day and says, we're changing direction. But the crew says, this is not familiar, and unfamiliar feels dangerous. So the system resists. This resistance is not failure, it is protection. Your subconscious mind has one primary function: survival. Not success, not wealth, not greatness, survival. If success feels unfamiliar, it may feel unsafe. If discipline feels unfamiliar, it may feel threatening. If confidence feels unfamiliar, it may trigger anxiety. Because the nervous system prefers familiar discomfort over unfamiliar growth. Let that sink in. Most people do not fail because they lack ability. They fail because their subconscious is protecting their old identity. Now, let's go deeper. The subconscious communicates through emotions, impulses, physical sensations, habits, not logic. When you procrastinate, that is not laziness. That is avoidance of discomfort your system has associated with threat. When you overreact emotionally, that is not weakness. That is stored survival response activating. When you doubt yourself before opportunity, that is not reality. That is prediction based on past emotional memory. Your subconscious predicts the future based on the past. And if the past contains failure, criticism, instability, or fear, it predicts repetition. Prediction creates emotion. Emotion drives behavior. Behavior reinforces belief, and the loop continues. Now, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what patterns keep repeating in my life? Financial cycles? Relationship cycles? Confidence cycles? Discipline cycles? Those patterns are not random, they are installed. And what is installed can be rewritten. But rewriting does not happen through motivation, it happens through understanding structure. Structure gives you power. Here is the empowering truth. Your subconscious is programmable at any age. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity. Your brain physically rewires based on repetition. New thoughts repeated with emotion create new neural pathways. New behaviors repeated consistently create new baseline responses. You are not fixed, you are conditioned. And conditioning can change, but it requires three things: awareness, repetition, emotional reinforcement. Right now, you are beginning to observe your architecture. You are stepping outside automatic reactions. That alone shifts power back to you. Because once you see the pattern, you are no longer fully controlled by it. This is only the beginning. In the next phase, we go deeper. We explore exactly how programming was installed in you. how early authority, repetition, emotional intensity, and environment shaped your baseline identity. Once you understand the installation process, you can reverse engineer the upgrade. Stay present. We are just getting started.
How your programming was installed, the invisible years that shaped you. You were not born doubting yourself. You were not born fearing money. You were not born procrastinating. You were not born emotionally reactive. You were born open, unfiltered, absorbing, and that openness was power. But it was also vulnerability, because during your early years, your brain operated in a different state. From birth to roughly 7 years old, your brain functioned primarily in slower brainwave patterns, states similar to hypnosis. In those years, you were not analyzing your environment. You were recording it. You were not questioning authority. You were accepting it. You were not filtering beliefs. You were installing them. Imagine a brand new operating system with no firewall. Everything enters. Tone of voice, facial expressions, arguments between parents, financial stress, praise, shame, cultural expectations, religious narratives, school feedback, social comparison. Nothing was neutral. Everything carried emotional charge, and emotion is the ink that writes on the subconscious. If you repeatedly saw tension around money, your nervous system paired money with stress. If love was inconsistent, your nervous system paired connection with uncertainty. If achievement brought approval, you may have paired achievement with worth. If mistakes brought criticism, you may have paired risk with rejection. These pairings become automatic associations, and associations become predictions. Let's slow this down. The subconscious learns through association. If event A repeatedly appears with emotion B, the brain links them, not logically, biologically. For example, if speaking in class once led to embarrassment, and that embarrassment felt intense, your nervous system may store visibility equals danger. Years later, when you are asked to present at work, your body reacts before your mind does. Heart rate increases, palms sweat, thoughts scatter, and you tell yourself, "I'm just not good at public speaking." But that is not truth. That is stored emotional memory replaying. Now, understand something critical. The subconscious does not store events as stories. It stores them as emotional imprints. It does not remember the full situation. It remembers the feeling. And feelings drive behavior. This is why two people can experience the same event and develop completely different beliefs. One child experiences strict parenting and develops discipline. Another child experiences strict parenting and develops fear. The difference is interpretation, and interpretation is shaped by sensitivity, repetition, and emotional intensity. Now let's go even deeper. Repetition is more powerful than logic. If you hear something once, it may influence you. If you hear something hundreds of times, it becomes internal truth. Statements like, "Be realistic," that's not for people like us. You're too sensitive. Money changes people. Life is hard. Don't trust anyone. Even if spoken casually, if repeated often enough, they install identity. And here is the hidden layer most people miss. Programming does not only come from words, it comes from observation. Children model behavior more than they obey instruction. If a parent says, "Be confident," but behaves anxiously, the child installs anxiety. If someone says, "Take risks," but avoids uncertainty, the child installs caution. If someone says, "Money isn't everything," while constantly worrying about bills, the child installs scarcity. You learned far more from what you observed than from what you were told. Now pause and reflect.
What did you observe about conflict, money, success, failure, love, power, authority, health, self-expression? You did not choose those early exposures, but they shaped your baseline. Now let's examine emotional intensity. The subconscious prioritizes high emotion moments. Trauma imprints fast. Embarrassment imprints fast. Fear imprints fast. Shame imprints fast. But so does praise, encouragement, recognition, achievement. The stronger the emotion, the deeper the installation. This is why a single humiliating moment in adolescence can affect confidence for years. And this is why a single empowering mentor can shift someone's trajectory permanently. Emotion accelerates encoding. Now here's where responsibility begins. Most of your core beliefs were installed before you were consciously aware. But today, you are conscious, and awareness is leverage. However, awareness alone is not enough, because your nervous system does not respond to logic, it responds to familiarity. If chaos feels familiar, calm feels suspicious. If struggle feels familiar, ease feels uncomfortable. If inconsistency feels familiar, stability feels boring. So even when you consciously desire growth, your body may resist it. This is why people sabotage relationships when they become healthy, why they overspend after financial progress, why they quit after early success, because their system is attempting to return to baseline familiarity. Your nervous system equates familiar with safe, even if familiar is limiting. This is not weakness, this is conditioning. Now here's a powerful realization. Your current personality is partially a defense mechanism. Your humor, your ambition, your people-pleasing, your emotional distance, your perfectionism, your procrastination. Each of these may have originally formed as protection. Protection from rejection, protection from failure, protection from chaos, protection from criticism. At one point, these patterns helped you survive. But survival patterns can limit growth patterns, and growth requires reevaluation. Ask yourself honestly, which of my traits are authentic and which were built to cope? That question alone can change your life. Now we move into something even more precise. Programming is reinforced by environment. Even if you want to evolve, if you remain surrounded by negative narratives, scarcity thinking, emotionally reactive people, low standards, constant distraction, your system keeps receiving reinforcement of the old identity. Environment is silent programming. It shapes norms. It defines normal. If everyone around you complains, complaining feels normal. If everyone around you avoids risk, avoidance feels intelligent. If everyone around you settles, ambition feels dangerous. This is why growth often requires environmental shifts. Not dramatic abandonment, but intentional exposure to higher standards. Books, mentors, conversations, content, physical spaces. You must feed your nervous system new models of possibility, because the subconscious updates through exposure. Now breathe. Slow inhale, long exhale. Feel the weight of this realization. You were programmed, not broken, not flawed, programmed. And what is programmed can be reprogrammed. But before we rewrite, we must fully see the code. In the next phase, we uncover the invisible scripts currently controlling your decisions, not in theory, in real-life behaviors. We decode the patterns you thought were personality, and once decoded, they lose power. Stay with me. This is where transformation becomes precise.
The invisible scripts controlling your daily decisions. Right now, there is a voice in your head. It comments, it predicts, it warns, it criticizes, it justifies. Most people assume that voice is them, but it is not you. It is conditioning speaking through you, an internalized script built from repetition, emotion, and authority. And the most dangerous thing about a script is not that it exists, it's that it runs automatically. You don't wake up and consciously decide, I will doubt myself today. You don't schedule insecurity. You don't plan procrastination. It activates, because scripts trigger under specific conditions. Let's make this real. Imagine you're about to take a risk, start a business, apply for a promotion, post your ideas publicly. Suddenly, a thought appears. What if this fails? Then another. What will people think? Then a sensation. Tight chest, restlessness, mental fog. You assume the thought created the feeling, but often the feeling came first. Your nervous system scanned the situation, detected unfamiliar exposure, flagged it as potential threat, released stress hormones, and your mind generated thoughts to justify the feeling. This is critical. Thoughts often explain emotions that were triggered subconsciously, not the other way around. So, when you hear, I'm not ready, I need more time, this isn't the right moment, ask yourself, is this logic or is this protection? Because protection disguises itself as intelligence. Now let's identify the most common invisible scripts. Script number 1, I am not enough. This script hides behind perfectionism. It hides behind over-preparation. It hides behind people-pleasing. It whispers, if I improve just a little more, then I'll be worthy. But the finish line keeps moving because the script isn't about improvement. It's about avoiding exposure. Script number 2, success is unsafe. This one is subtle. It may come from childhood moments where standing out led to criticism, or where achievement created pressure, or where visibility triggered jealousy. Now, as an adult, you start rising and suddenly feel anxiety. You downplay your wins, you avoid spotlight, you shrink unconsciously, not because you lack ambition, but because your system associates visibility with threat. Script number 3, money creates stress. If your early experiences tied finances to arguments, tension, or instability, your subconscious may link wealth with emotional chaos. So, even if you want financial freedom, you may unconsciously maintain financial struggle because struggle feels predictable. Script number 4, love requires sacrifice. So, you overextend, overgive, over-tolerate, because your system equates love with endurance. Script number 5, I must not fail. This one creates procrastination, because if you never fully try, you never fully fail, and avoiding failure protects identity. Now, here's the breakthrough realization. Scripts do not disappear because you recognize them once. They weaken when you catch them in real time. The moment a limiting thought appears and you say internally, this is a script, not truth, you create space, and space creates power. Let's slow down and examine the loop. Trigger, emotion, thought, behavior, reinforcement. That is the cycle. A situation triggers a stored association, your body reacts, your mind creates a narrative, you behave in alignment with that narrative, the outcome reinforces the original belief, and the loop strengthens. Example, you fear rejection, you enter a new relationship cautiously, you avoid vulnerability, the connection remains shallow, it ends, you conclude, see, it never works. But it wasn't fate. It was protective behavior confirming the script. This is not self-blame. This is self-awareness. Because once you see the loop, you can interrupt it. And interruption is the beginning of rewiring. Now, here's something even deeper. Your subconscious does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you emotionally expect.
If you expect struggle, you prepare for struggle. If you expect rejection, you scan for rejection. If you expect failure, you interpret neutral events as negative signals. Expectation shapes perception. Perception shapes action. Action shapes outcome. Outcome strengthens expectation. This is why two people can face the same challenge and produce different realities. One sees opportunity, one sees danger. One leans in, one withdraws. The difference is internal script. Now pause and reflect carefully. Where in your life do you see repetition? Where do outcomes feel predictable? Where do you say, "This always happens to me"? That phrase is a clue. Always signals a script, because life itself is not repetitive, behavior is, and behavior is script-driven. Let's go even further. Your identity is a collection of reinforced scripts. I'm bad with money. I'm not disciplined. I'm emotional. I'm unlucky. I'm just like this. Those statements feel factual, but they are historical summaries, not permanent truths. Identity feels solid because it has been repeated for years, but repetition built it, and repetition can rebuild it. Here is the shift you must adopt. Instead of asking, "Why am I like this?" ask, "When did I learn this?" That question removes shame and replaces it with investigation. You are not broken. You adapted, and adaptation can evolve. Now imagine something powerful. Imagine catching every limiting script this week. Every time doubt speaks, you label it. Every time fear predicts, you observe it. Every time you feel the urge to retreat, you pause before acting. That pause is revolutionary, because between stimulus and response, there is space, and in that space is the ability to choose differently, not emotionally, intentionally. The first few times you interrupt a script will feel uncomfortable. Your nervous system will resist because unfamiliar responses feel risky. But repetition of new responses creates new familiarity, and familiarity becomes safety. You are not trying to eliminate fear. You are retraining your response to it. You are not trying to silence doubt. You are reducing its authority. And authority shifts through evidence. Each time you act against a limiting script and survive, your subconscious updates. Each time you stay calm instead of reactive, your baseline shifts. Each time you follow through despite resistance, your identity evolves. This is precision work, not dramatic, but powerful. In the next phase, we uncover something even more foundational. If scripts are the surface layer, there is something deeper beneath them, identity. Because scripts serve identity, and until identity shifts, scripts regenerate. Now we move from behavior correction to identity reconstruction. Stay focused. This is where real change begins.
Identity, the hidden force that overrides willpower. You don't get what you want. You get what you believe you are. Read that again, internally. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. This is why willpower feels temporary, because willpower fights identity, and identity always wins long-term. If you see yourself as inconsistent, you may act disciplined for a week, but eventually your behavior drifts back to match your self-image. If you see yourself as bad with money, you can learn strategies, you can feel motivated, but your financial decisions will subtly align with that belief. If you see yourself as not confident, you can rehearse speeches, but in critical moments, your nervous system will pull you back to familiarity. Identity is the internal thermostat. You can heat the room temporarily, but the thermostat resets it. Now understand this clearly. Identity is not who you truly are. It is who you have repeatedly practiced being. It is accumulated evidence. Past behavior, repeated long enough, becomes identity. You didn't wake up one day and decide,
I am undisciplined. You skipped small commitments repeatedly. You felt guilt. You repeated the pattern. And eventually, the mind concluded, this is who I am. Identity forms from repetition plus emotional meaning. Repetition creates evidence. Emotion creates significance. Significance creates belief. Belief shapes perception. Perception filters opportunity. Opportunity reinforces belief, and the loop tightens. Now here's the breakthrough insight. You are loyal to your identity, even when it limits you, because identity provides psychological stability. It answers the question, who am I in this world? And the brain prefers a consistent answer, even if that answer is small. This is why people defend their limitations, why someone might say proudly, I'm just not a business person. I'm not the disciplined type. I'm always late. I'm too emotional. Notice the language, ownership, finality, certainty. Those statements are not observations, they are commitments. The subconscious hears them as instructions, and it organizes behavior accordingly. Now here's something powerful. If you change your identity, behavior follows naturally. But if you try to change behavior without shifting identity, you rely on force. Force requires energy. Identity requires alignment. Force burns out. Alignment sustains. Let's slow this down with an example. Imagine someone who says, I'm trying to quit smoking. That language implies internal conflict. Part of them still identifies as a smoker. Now imagine someone who says, I'm not a smoker. Different identity, different baseline. The second statement reduces negotiation. The behavior aligns with the identity. Or take discipline. If you say, I'm trying to be disciplined, you are outside the identity. If you say, I am a disciplined person, your brain begins searching for evidence to confirm that. Identity directs attention. Attention directs action. Action reinforces identity. Now here's where this becomes transformational. You don't need massive change to shift identity. You need small, repeated proof. Each time you act in alignment with the upgraded version of you, you cast a vote, not for the goal, for the identity. Each workout is not about fitness. It is a vote for I am someone who trains. Each focused work session is not about productivity. It is a vote for I am someone who executes. Each calm response under stress is not about the situation. It is a vote for I am emotionally regulated. Votes accumulate. Identity shifts. But here's the trap. Most people wait to feel like the new identity before acting like it. That never works. You act first. Feeling follows evidence. Evidence creates belief. Belief creates identity, not the other way around. Now let's address the fear beneath identity change. If you outgrow your old identity, some people around you may feel uncomfortable because your change challenges their baseline. If you become disciplined, your old excuses no longer fit socially. If you become financially ambitious, scarcity conversations feel misaligned. If you become emotionally stable, drama loses its grip. Growth creates distance, not necessarily physically, but energetically. And your nervous system may resist identity change to preserve belonging. This is subtle, powerful, and often unconscious. You may sabotage growth to remain familiar to others because belonging once equaled survival. But here is the evolution. You can maintain connection without maintaining limitation. You can grow without arrogance. You can upgrade without abandoning compassion. Identity change does not require aggression. It requires clarity. Now imagine this deeply. Close your eyes mentally for a moment. Picture the version of you 5 years ahead, calm, financially stable, physically strong, focused, emotionally mature, respected. Now ask, what does that version tolerate? What does that version refuse? How does that version speak? How does that version handle conflict? How does that version structure their day? That future identity already exists as a possibility. Your job is not to create it from nothing. Your job is to align daily behavior with it. Alignment builds familiarity. Familiarity builds safety. Safety allows permanence. Now let's go one layer deeper. Identity is stored not only in thought, but in physiology. Your posture reflects identity. Your breathing pattern reflects identity. Your tone of voice reflects identity. Your pace of movement reflects identity. If you want to shift identity, you must embody it physically. Stand differently. Speak deliberately. Move intentionally. Breathe slower. The body teaches the brain as much as the brain teaches the body. Embodiment accelerates installation. Now understand this final truth for this phase. You cannot hate yourself into a new identity. Shame reinforces old identity. Compassion plus discipline creates new identity. You acknowledge where you are, without attack, without excuses. Then you decide who you are becoming, and you act accordingly, daily, quietly, consistently. Identity does not change in a dramatic moment. It changes in ordinary decisions repeated beyond comfort. In the next phase, we examine what resists identity change: fear, emotional conditioning, self-sabotage loops. Because when identity begins to shift, the old system fights back, and you must understand that fight before you win it. Stay steady. We are building something permanent.
Fear, emotional conditioning, and the self-sabotage loop. Every time you attempt to grow, there is a part of you that whispers, "Slow down. Wait. Not yet. What if this goes wrong?" That voice is not weakness. It is emotional conditioning protecting familiarity. Fear is not the enemy. Misinterpreted fear is. Your nervous system was designed for survival in physical danger, but in the modern world, it reacts to psychological exposure the same way it once reacted to predators. Rejection feels like threat. Failure feels like threat. Judgment feels like threat. Uncertainty feels like threat. So when you attempt something bigger than your current identity, your body responds before your logic does. Heart rate increases, breathing becomes shallow, muscles tighten, your focus narrows. This is not coincidence, this is biology. And then your mind creates a story to justify the sensation. I'm not ready. This isn't smart. Maybe later. The body reacted first. The mind rationalized second. Now, here is where self-sabotage begins. Fear triggers discomfort. Discomfort seeks relief. Relief comes from retreat. You delay the action, you cancel the plan, you distract yourself, and immediately your nervous system calms. That relief feels good, and the brain records it. Avoidance equals safety. Now the loop strengthens. The next time growth appears, fear activates faster, avoidance happens sooner, and the identity remains unchanged. That is the self-sabotage cycle. Trigger, fear response, avoidance, temporary relief, reinforcement. Understand this clearly. Self-sabotage is not self-hatred. It is self-protection misapplied. At some earlier point in your life, avoidance reduced pain. Staying quiet prevented embarrassment. Not trying prevented failure. Not trusting prevented betrayal. Those strategies once helped you survive, but survival strategies become growth limitations when not updated. Now, let's explore something deeper. Fear is often layered. Surface fear says, "What if I fail?" Deeper fear says, "What if I'm exposed?"
Even deeper fear says, what if I'm not enough? And beneath that, what if I lose belonging? Most people are not afraid of failure itself. They are afraid of the meaning they attach to failure. Failure might mean, I'm incapable, I'm behind, I disappointed someone, I'm not worthy. It is the identity threat that hurts, not the event. Now, imagine this. Two people launch a project. Both face obstacles. One thinks, this is feedback. The other thinks, this proves I'm not good enough. Same event, different identity interpretation. And interpretation drives persistence. Now, here's something most people never consider. You may also fear success. Not consciously, but physiologically. Because success creates visibility. Visibility creates expectation. Expectation creates pressure. And pressure may have once been overwhelming. If achievement in your past led to stress, your nervous system may associate growth with burden. So you unconsciously slow down when things start working. You miss deadlines, you lose focus, you create minor crises, not intentionally, but predictably, because your system is trying to return to emotional equilibrium. Now, breathe slowly. Inhale, long exhale. Feel how simply regulating breath calms the body. This is important because fear is physiological before it is psychological. If you cannot regulate your body, you cannot override your conditioning. Emotional mastery begins with nervous system control. When fear arises, instead of immediately obeying it, pause. Slow your breathing. Lengthen the exhale. Relax your jaw. Drop your shoulders. Signal safety manually. You are teaching your body discomfort does not equal danger. Repeat that internally. Discomfort does not equal danger. The more you stay present in discomfort without escaping, the more your brain updates its prediction. Prediction changes, fear reduces. Now, let's go further. Self-sabotage often appears right before breakthrough. Why? Because breakthrough threatens the old identity. If you succeed at a higher level, you must maintain that level. Maintenance requires consistency. Consistency requires responsibility. Responsibility removes excuses. Excuses protect ego. So right before the next level, doubt increases. Fatigue increases, distraction increases. This is not coincidence. It is identity resistance. Growth feels unstable before it feels natural. But here is the reframe. The presence of fear does not mean stop. It means you are at the edge of expansion. Edges feel uncomfortable, but edges are where growth lives. If you retreat every time you feel fear, your world shrinks. If you lean forward while regulating fear, your world expands. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is regulated movement through it. Now, ask yourself honestly, where in my life do I repeatedly stop right before momentum builds? Where do I create problems when things begin stabilizing? Where do I pull back when I start gaining recognition? That pattern reveals your current tolerance level. Your nervous system has a set point for success, income, visibility, peace, confidence. If you exceed that set point, internal resistance appears. Your task is not to eliminate resistance instantly. It is to gradually raise the set point. You do this through exposure, small risks, repeated consistently. Speak up once, follow through once, stay disciplined one more day than usual, hold your boundary once. Each time you survive the discomfort, your tolerance expands, and tolerance expansion is identity evolution. Now, here is the most empowering truth of this section. Fear is not a stop sign. It is a doorway. On the other side of that doorway is the version of you that no longer fears it. But you must walk through it regulated, not recklessly, not emotionally reactive, calmly, intentionally, breath steady, mind aware, action chosen. In the next phase, we move from understanding fear to mastering the rewiring process itself. Not theory, mechanism. We explore how the brain physically changes, how habits install neurologically, how repetition reshapes identity at a biological level. Because once you understand the mechanism, you stop hoping for change and start engineering it. Stay steady. We're moving from awareness to power.
The neuroscience of rewiring, how change becomes biological. Everything you repeatedly think, feel, and do creates physical pathways in your brain, not metaphorically, literally. Your brain is not fixed. It is plastic, adaptable, responsive. This ability is called neuroplasticity, and it means one powerful thing. You are not stuck with your current wiring, but you are responsible for updating it. Let's simplify the process. When you repeat a thought or behavior, neurons fire together. When neurons fire together repeatedly, they wire together. The pathway strengthens. Like walking through grass. The first time you walk across a field, the grass resists. The second time, it bends easier. After weeks of walking the same path, a visible trail forms. Your brain works the same way. If you repeatedly think, "I'm not good enough," that neural path strengthens. If you repeatedly procrastinate when uncomfortable, that avoidance pathway strengthens. If you repeatedly react emotionally under stress, that reaction pathway strengthens. But here is the empowering truth. New paths can be built, and old paths can weaken. However, there is a catch. The brain prefers efficiency. It will default to the strongest, most familiar pathway. That's why change feels unnatural at first. You are trying to walk through tall grass while an old highway already exists. Your system wants the highway, even if the highway leads somewhere you no longer want to go. Now understand something critical. Emotion accelerates wiring. If a behavior produces strong relief or strong pain, it wires faster. This is why avoidance becomes powerful quickly. Avoiding discomfort produces relief. Relief feels rewarding. Reward strengthens the pathway. But you can reverse engineer this. When you deliberately stay in discomfort and experience growth or pride afterward, that positive reinforcement wires a new path. This is the mechanism behind discipline, not force, repetition plus emotional meaning. Let's break down habit installation in precise steps. Cue, routine, reward. Cue triggers routine. Routine produces reward. Reward reinforces loop. For example, stress, cue, scroll on phone, routine, distraction relief, reward. Loop strengthened. Now imagine modifying it. Stress, cue, deep breathing plus focused action, routine. Completion satisfaction, reward. New loop installed. The key is not eliminating cues. You will always experience stress. The key is redesigning routine. But here's the part most people ignore. In the beginning, the new routine feels less rewarding. Scrolling gives instant dopamine. Discipline gives delayed reward. And the brain loves immediacy. So in the early stages of rewiring, you must consciously attach meaning to the new behavior.
After you complete a difficult action, pause, acknowledge it, feel the satisfaction. Tell yourself, this is who I am becoming. You are amplifying the reward signal. The brain must register the experience as valuable, otherwise it will revert. Now let's go deeper into identity-level rewiring. Every time you act in alignment with your upgraded self, you are not just building habit, you are altering baseline neural firing patterns. At first, the new behavior requires conscious effort, prefrontal cortex engagement, decision-making energy. But with repetition, the behavior moves into automatic processing. It becomes default. Effort reduces, consistency increases, identity shifts. This is why the first 30 to 60 days of change feel heavy. You are building new circuits. But after sufficient repetition, discipline feels lighter, confidence feels natural, calm responses feel automatic. Not because you forced yourself forever, but because your brain adapted. Now here is a powerful concept. Your brain deletes unused pathways. If you stop feeding an old behavior, it weakens, not instantly, but gradually. If you stop reacting with anger every time you're triggered, that pathway loses strength. If you stop reinforcing "I'm not enough" thoughts, they lose authority. What you starve shrinks. What you feed grows. This is not motivational language. This is neurological law. Attention is fertilizer. Where attention goes, wiring grows. So if you constantly replay past mistakes, you strengthen regret pathways. If you repeatedly visualize future competence, you strengthen possibility pathways. But visualization must be emotional. Flat imagination wires weakly. Emotionally vivid rehearsal wires strongly. Elite athletes understand this. They mentally rehearse success in detail. Their brains fire similar neural patterns as if the event is physically happening. You can use the same principle. Before difficult conversations, mentally rehearse calm delivery. Before big projects, visualize disciplined execution. Before stressful events, picture steady breathing and controlled response. You are pre-installing the pattern. Now here's the reality. Rewiring requires friction. If it feels easy, you are likely repeating old patterns. Growth discomfort is a sign of new circuit formation. The key is to differentiate between harmful stress and productive tension. Harmful stress overwhelms and shuts down. Productive tension stretches but remains manageable. Stay in productive tension consistently. That is where rewiring happens. Now let's talk about consistency. Intensity is overrated. Consistency is neurological gold. A small action repeated daily wires stronger than a massive action done once. 10 minutes of focused effort daily beats 3 hours once a week, because repetition frequency matters more than emotional spikes. Your brain learns through rhythm, daily proof, predictable pattern, steady reinforcement. This is how identity solidifies, not through dramatic declarations, through ordinary discipline. And here is the final powerful insight of this phase. You cannot think your way into transformation. You must behave your way into it. Thought awareness opens the door. Behavior repetition builds the house. If you want permanent change, engineer your environment to support repetition. Reduce friction for positive habits. Increase friction for negative ones. Place your workout clothes where you see them. Remove distracting apps. Schedule deep work time. Design cues intentionally. Environment shapes wiring faster than motivation. Now, pause. Feel the magnitude of this. Your brain is adapting every day, whether you choose consciously or not. Every scroll, every reaction, every delay, every follow-through. You are wiring yourself continuously. The question is, are you wiring limitation or expansion? In the next phase, we move from brain mechanics to installing discipline and self-trust, because rewiring begins with awareness, but it stabilizes with integrity, and integrity is built through kept promises. Stay focused. We are constructing something that lasts.
Installing discipline and rebuilding self-trust. The most powerful asset you can develop is not confidence. It is self-trust. Confidence can fluctuate. Self-trust compounds. Self-trust is the quiet certainty that says, when I decide, I execute. And most people don't struggle because they lack ability. They struggle because they don't trust themselves to follow through. Think carefully. How many times have you said, I'll start tomorrow. I'll wake up early. I'll stay consistent. I won't react like that again. And then you broke the promise. Each broken promise may feel small, but subconsciously your brain records it. And after enough broken promises, a belief forms. I don't follow through. That belief weakens identity, and without self-trust, discipline feels impossible. Now here's the shift. Discipline is not about intensity, it is about integrity. Integrity means your actions match your words, even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. Self-trust rebuilds the same way it was lost, through repetition, but this time, intentional repetition. Let's slow this down into a practical structure. Step 1. Lower the commitment, raise the consistency. Most people attempt transformation with extreme standards. Wake up at 5 a.m., 2-hour workouts, perfect diet, 0 distraction, and when they inevitably miss a day, the collapse begins. Instead, choose commitments so small that breaking them would feel ridiculous. 10 minutes of focused work, 5 minutes of breath control, 1 page of reading, 1 healthy meal. The size of the action is less important than the identity it reinforces. Each completed action says, I keep my word, and that message rewires your self-image. Step 2. Never miss twice. You will slip. You will have off days. That is human. But do not allow 1 missed action to become 2. Missing once is an event. Missing twice is the beginning of a pattern. Protect patterns, because patterns create identity. Step 3. Track evidence. Your brain needs proof. Write down completed commitments, not to impress anyone, but to build internal documentation. When doubt whispers, you're inconsistent, you respond with evidence. I've executed 27 days this month. Evidence weakens old scripts. Now let's address resistance. Discipline often triggers internal rebellion. A voice says, this is restrictive. I don't want to live like a robot. I need freedom. But understand this clearly. True freedom requires structure. Without structure, you become a slave to impulse. Impulse feels free in the moment, but over time it creates chaos, and chaos erodes confidence. Discipline is not punishment, it is alignment. It removes negotiation. When something is non-negotiable, energy is saved, decision fatigue reduces, execution becomes smoother. Now consider this. Every time you do what you said you would do, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen prefrontal control over emotional impulse. That strengthens executive function. That increases emotional stability. That increases clarity. That increases power. You are literally strengthening the part of the brain responsible for long-term thinking. Now let's go deeper into emotional discipline. Physical discipline is visible. Emotional discipline is internal. When someone disrespects you and you remain composed, that is discipline. When stress rises and you regulate your breath instead of reacting, that is discipline.
When frustration appears and you respond strategically instead of impulsively, that is discipline, and each controlled response strengthens identity. But here is a powerful truth. Discipline without purpose burns out. You must attach your discipline to identity, not outcome. If you exercise only for appearance, motivation fluctuates. If you exercise because I am someone who takes care of my body, identity sustains it. If you work hard only for money, energy dips. If you work hard because I am someone who executes at a high standard, consistency stabilizes. Identity-based discipline lasts. Outcome-based discipline fades. Now let's talk about standards. Your life reflects your tolerated standards. If you tolerate distraction, you get mediocrity. If you tolerate inconsistency, you get instability. If you tolerate disrespect, you get resentment. Raise standards quietly, not loudly, not performatively, internally. Decide, I don't miss commitments. I don't speak negatively about myself. I don't react emotionally without pausing. These are standards, and standards create boundaries. Boundaries protect energy. Protected energy fuels growth. Now understand something profound. Self-trust is attractive, not externally first, internally. When you trust yourself, anxiety decreases because uncertainty reduces. You know you will handle what appears, not perfectly, but consistently. That calm certainty is power, and it compounds. Now, here's the moment of reflection. Ask yourself, where have I been negotiating with myself? Where have I allowed small excuses? Where have I broken promises quietly? Do not judge the answers. Observe them. Then choose one area, and tighten it. For the next 30 days, become unbreakable in that one commitment. Not extreme, unbreakable. At the end of 30 days, you will not just have a habit, you will have evidence, and evidence changes identity. In the next phase, we expand this power outward, from internal discipline to external creation, from self-trust to wealth consciousness and abundance rewiring. Because once you trust yourself, you can build anything. Stay steady. We are compounding strength now.
Wealth consciousness, reprogramming scarcity at the root. Money is not just currency. It is stored emotion, stored belief, stored identity. For most people, money triggers more subconscious programming than almost any other subject. Because money was never neutral in your early life. It was loaded. It carried tension, relief, comparison, fear, status, security, conflict. And whatever emotional environment surrounded money in your childhood likely shaped your financial baseline today. Let's slow down. If you witnessed stress around bills, your nervous system may link money with anxiety. If wealth was criticized, you may link success with guilt. If financial struggle was normalized, scarcity may feel familiar. If earning more than others led to judgment, you may unconsciously limit your expansion. These associations don't disappear just because you want financial freedom. They operate beneath logic. Now, here's the crucial truth. Your income often matches your internal comfort zone, not your capability. You might be capable of earning significantly more, but if higher income feels unsafe, unfamiliar, or identity-threatening, you will unconsciously regulate back to baseline. This is not mystical. It is nervous system conditioning. If your set point for income is X dollars and you exceed it, internal tension may rise. You might overspend, underperform, delay invoicing, miss opportunities, not intentionally, but predictably. Because expansion without identity shift creates instability. Now, ask yourself honestly, what emotions arise when you think about large amounts of money? Excitement? Anxiety? Suspicion? Guilt?
Pressure? Your first emotional reaction reveals your programming. Now here's something deeper. Scarcity is not about how much you have. It is about how much you fear losing. Someone can earn millions and still operate from scarcity, hoarding, distrusting, constantly anticipating collapse. Scarcity is a nervous system state. Abundance is also a nervous system state. Abundance does not mean recklessness. It means internal sufficiency. It means you believe, I can create value. I can recover from setbacks. Resources flow through competence. That belief reduces panic. Now, understand this clearly. Wealth consciousness begins with self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will interpret challenges as confirmation. If you see yourself as someone who learns, adapts, and increases value, setbacks become temporary. Identity shapes financial trajectory. But here's the part many avoid. To increase wealth sustainably, you must increase responsibility tolerance. More income often means more decisions, more visibility, more pressure, more expectations. If your nervous system avoids pressure, you may avoid higher income unconsciously. So wealth expansion requires capacity expansion, emotional capacity, decision-making capacity, stress regulation capacity. This is why inner work precedes outer growth. Now let's move into rewiring scarcity practically. Step 1. Audit your internal money language. Do you say, money is hard to make? Rich people are greedy. I'm just not good with numbers. There's never enough. Every statement reinforces identity. Replace exaggeration with accuracy. Instead of, I'm bad with money, say, I am learning financial skill. Language matters because the subconscious listens literally. Step 2. Detach money from moral judgment. Money amplifies character. It does not create it. If someone is generous, wealth amplifies generosity. If someone is insecure, wealth amplifies insecurity. Money is neutral energy. Your identity determines its expression. Step 3. Increase value focus. Income correlates with value delivered, not effort exerted. Shift your attention from how much can I get to how much value can I build. Value-based thinking reduces scarcity panic because you focus on creation, not extraction. Step 4. Practice nervous system expansion. If you receive unexpected income, pause, breathe. Instead of instantly spending or shrinking, sit with the expansion. Train your body to tolerate growth calmly. The ability to remain regulated during financial increase is a powerful rewiring tool. Now, here's something profound. Gratitude accelerates abundance wiring. Not forced positivity, but genuine recognition of existing resources. When your brain registers sufficiency, it reduces survival panic, and reduced panic increases clarity. Clarity improves decisions. Better decisions increase resources. Resources reinforce abundance belief. This is not fantasy thinking, it is psychological alignment. Now, let's address comparison. Comparison fuels scarcity because it frames wealth as competition. But abundance sees wealth as expandable. Someone else's success does not reduce your potential, but if you interpret it as a threat, your nervous system contracts.
Wealth consciousness, reprogramming scarcity at the root. Money is not just currency. It is stored emotion, stored belief, stored identity. For most people, money triggers more subconscious programming than almost any other subject. Because money was never neutral in your early life, it was loaded. It carried tension, relief, comparison, fear, status, security,
conflict. And whatever emotional environment surrounded money in your childhood likely shaped your financial baseline today. Let's slow down. If you witnessed stress around bills, your nervous system may link money with anxiety. If wealth was criticized, you may link success with guilt. If financial struggle was normalized, scarcity may feel familiar. If earning more than others led to judgment, you may unconsciously limit your expansion. These associations don't disappear just because you want financial freedom. They operate beneath logic. Now, here's the crucial truth. Your income often matches your internal comfort zone, not your capability. You might be capable of earning significantly more, but if higher income feels unsafe, unfamiliar, or identity-threatening, you will unconsciously regulate back to baseline. This is not mystical. It is nervous system conditioning. If your set point for income is X dollars and you exceed it, internal tension may rise. You might overspend, underperform, delay invoicing, miss opportunities, not intentionally, but predictably, because expansion without identity shift creates instability. Now, ask yourself honestly, what emotions arise when you think about large amounts of money? Excitement? Anxiety? Suspicion? Guilt? Pressure? Your first emotional reaction reveals your programming. Now here's something deeper. Scarcity is not about how much you have. It is about how much you fear losing. Someone can earn millions and still operate from scarcity, hoarding, distrusting, constantly anticipating collapse. Scarcity is a nervous system state. Abundance is also a nervous system state. Abundance does not mean recklessness. It means internal sufficiency. It means you believe, I can create value. I can recover from setbacks. Resources flow through competence. That belief reduces panic. Now, understand this clearly. Wealth consciousness begins with self-concept. If you see yourself as someone who struggles financially, you will interpret challenges as confirmation. If you see yourself as someone who learns, adapts, and increases value, setbacks become temporary. Identity shapes financial trajectory. But here's the part many avoid. To increase wealth sustainably, you must increase responsibility tolerance. More income often means more decisions, more visibility, more pressure, more expectations. If your nervous system avoids pressure, you may avoid higher income unconsciously. So wealth expansion requires capacity expansion, emotional capacity, decision-making capacity, stress regulation capacity. This is why inner work precedes outer growth. Now let's move into rewiring scarcity practically. Step 1. Audit your internal money language. Do you say, money is hard to make? Rich people are greedy. I'm just not good with numbers. There's never enough. Every statement reinforces
Emotional regulation and power presence. Most people do not lose because of lack of intelligence. They lose because of emotional leakage, a reaction at the wrong time, an impulsive decision, an argument that didn't need to happen, a moment of ego that destroyed leverage. Emotional regulation is not suppression, it is command. It is the ability to feel fully without being controlled. Let's clarify something important. Emotions are signals, not instructions. Anger signals boundary violation. Fear signals perceived threat. Sadness signals loss. Excitement signals opportunity. But signals require interpretation, and interpretation requires stability. If your nervous system is dysregulated, you misinterpret signals. You see attack where there is feedback. You see rejection where there is neutrality. You see catastrophe where there is inconvenience. This distortion drains power. Now understand this. Emotional intensity reduces cognitive clarity. When you are triggered, blood flow shifts away from higher reasoning. You become reactive, short-term focused, defensive. That might have helped in physical survival situations, but in modern life, it destroys strategic thinking. Power presence begins with pause. Not long, just enough. 3 slow breaths before responding. That single habit separates reactive individuals from powerful ones. Now let's go deeper. Emotional triggers are stored memories. When someone disrespects you today, you are not only reacting to this moment, you are reacting to every past moment that felt similar. The intensity you feel may be cumulative, which means your reaction might be disproportionate, and disproportionate reactions reduce credibility. So the goal is not to eliminate emotion, it is to reduce accumulated charge. How? Through awareness and exposure. When you notice a recurring trigger, ask, what does this remind my body of? Not just mentally, physiologically. Where do you feel it? Chest tightness, jaw tension, heat in the face? Instead of acted outwardly, regulate inwardly. Slow exhale. Relax muscles. Lower your tone. Control your posture. Your body posture influences emotional state. Stand upright, shoulders back, head level, breathing steady. This is not cosmetic, it signals dominance to your own nervous system. Calm posture teaches calm response. Now let's discuss something deeper. Power presence is quiet. It does not rush. It does not over-explain. It does not seek validation mid-conversation. When you are emotionally stable, your words slow down, your gaze steadies, your silence becomes comfortable, and people feel it. Why? Because most individuals operate from internal chaos. Calm energy stands out. It signals control. Now consider this scenario. Someone criticizes you publicly. 2 options: immediate defense or measured response. The first protects ego. The second protects power. When you pause and respond strategically, you demonstrate self-command. Self-command increases influence. Influence multiplies opportunity. This is how emotional regulation compounds externally. Now let's go even deeper. Emotional addiction is real. Some people are addicted to drama, conflict, intensity, because it feels stimulating. Calm feels boring, but constant emotional spikes exhaust the nervous system. Exhaustion reduces discipline, reduces clarity, reduces creativity. Emotional stability preserves energy. Energy is capital. Protect it. Now ask yourself honestly, where do I leak emotional energy? Overthinking conversations? Replaying past arguments? Imagining worst-case scenarios? Seeking approval? Each leak drains cognitive resources. Plug the leaks, not by suppression, by reframing. If something is outside your control, release it intentionally. Say internally, not mine to solve. That mental boundary prevents rumination. Now here's something powerful. Emotional maturity means taking responsibility for your internal state, not blaming circumstances, not blaming people, not blaming timing. Your reaction is your responsibility. This is not self-blame, it is empowerment. Because when you own your reaction, you regain leverage. If others can control your mood, they control your stability. And stability is power. Now let's address shame. Shame is one of the heaviest emotional states. It collapses posture, lowers voice, shrinks presence. But shame dissolves under ownership. If you make a mistake, own it quickly, calmly, directly. Ownership neutralizes emotional charge. Defensiveness amplifies it. Power presence includes the ability to say, "I was wrong," without collapsing identity. That requires strong internal foundation. Now imagine this version of you. Someone raises their voice. You remain steady.
Someone questions your ability. You respond with clarity. A situation becomes chaotic. You move slower, not faster. That slowness under pressure is authority, and authority attracts respect. But this level of regulation requires practice. Start small. When minor inconveniences occur, treat them as training. Traffic, delays, interruptions. Instead of frustration, practice composure. These micro moments build macro control. Now here's the truth. Emotional mastery is not about never feeling anger or fear. It is about choosing expression deliberately. Anger can be expressed calmly, firmly, strategically, without explosion. Fear can be acknowledged without retreat. Sadness can be felt without identity collapse. When emotion serves strategy, you are powerful. When emotion overrides strategy, you are vulnerable. And here is the final realization of this phase. People trust emotionally stable individuals. Investors trust them. Teams follow them. Partners respect them. Because predictability feels safe. When your emotional baseline is steady, others relax around you. That relaxation increases influence, and influence multiplies opportunity. In the next phase, we move into long-term compounding identity, because emotional control stabilizes growth, but compounding systems multiply it. Now we build sustainability. Stay composed. We are refining dominance quietly.
Long-term compounding identity. Building a self that scales. Most people think change is an event, a breakthrough moment, a powerful decision, a burst of motivation. But real transformation is structural, and structure compounds. Think in decades, not days, because identity is not built in emotional spikes, it is built in repeated alignment. Now understand this principle clearly. Small behaviors, repeated consistently, reshape trajectory more than dramatic effort. 1 disciplined hour per day for 5 years is over 1,800 hours of focused growth. That is expertise territory. That is financial leverage. That is identity cemented. Compounding is quiet. It does not announce itself. It builds beneath visibility. This is why patience is power. If you constantly seek immediate visible results, you interrupt compounding. You change strategy too often. You abandon before momentum stabilizes. You restart repeatedly. And restarting resets identity. Instead, adopt this frame. I am building a version of myself that operates at a higher baseline permanently. Baseline is everything. If your baseline discipline rises slightly, your output increases automatically. If your baseline emotional regulation rises slightly, conflict decreases automatically. If your baseline financial awareness rises slightly, wealth grows automatically. Baselines compound. Now let's define compounding identity practically. It means you no longer negotiate with habits that define you. You no longer debate standards you have chosen. You no longer rely on mood to determine execution. Your identity makes decisions for you. This reduces cognitive friction. Less friction equals more consistency. More consistency equals more growth. Now here's something profound. Consistency is not sexy, but it is elite. Elite performers are not extraordinary daily, they are extraordinarily consistent. And consistency is boring to observers, but powerful internally. Now imagine 2 individuals over 10 years. One chases intensity, one builds structure. The first experiences highs and lows. The second experiences steady incline. At year 10, the difference is exponential because compounding magnifies small differences over time. Now let's go deeper. Compounding identity requires three elements: clarity, standards, and environment. Clarity answers, who am I becoming? Not in vague terms, specifically. Disciplined, financially literate, emotionally stable, physically strong, strategically calm. Standards answer, what do I no longer tolerate? Excuses, chronic distraction, reactive communication, financial ignorance. Environment answers, what supports this identity daily? Workspaces designed for focus, relationships aligned with growth, information curated intentionally. If environment contradicts identity, compounding slows. If environment supports identity, growth accelerates. Now let's address time perspective. Short-term thinking creates emotional volatility. Long-term thinking creates stability. When something goes wrong, ask, will this matter in 5 years? Most situations shrink under that lens. This reduces unnecessary emotional spikes. Emotional stability protects compounding. Now here's a critical insight. The person you are becoming must feel normal to you. If success feels extraordinary, you will self-sabotage. If calm feels unusual, you will create chaos. So normalize excellence, normalize discipline, normalize steady growth. When growth feels ordinary, it sustains. Now imagine this future. 5 years from now, you wake up with clarity. Your body is trained, your finances are organized, your emotions are stable, your work is structured, your network is strong. This did not happen from one decision. It happened from thousands of aligned micro-decisions. That is compounding identity. Now here's the final layer: legacy. Not in grand public terms, but personal. What kind of internal standard do you want to live with? When you look back decades from now, will you respect your discipline? Will you respect your courage? Will you respect your restraint? Will you respect your growth? Compounding identity is about living in a way that future you admires present you, and admiration builds self-respect. Self-respect strengthens identity. Identity sustains behavior. Behavior compounds outcomes. Now pause. Breathe slowly. Feel the weight of this entire journey. You began by understanding programming. You uncovered invisible scripts. You reconstructed identity. You regulated fear. You rewired habits. You built discipline. You expanded wealth consciousness. You mastered emotional presence. Now you understand compounding. This is not motivation. It is structure. It is architecture. It is internal engineering. And here is the final truth. You are always becoming something. The question is not whether you are changing. The question is whether you are changing intentionally. From this moment forward, move deliberately. Speak deliberately. Act deliberately. Repeat deliberately. Because repetition creates identity. Identity creates destiny. And destiny, when engineered consciously, is no longer accidental. It is constructed, quietly, daily, permanently. This is mental wealth. This is self-mastery. And this is where your real expansion begins.
The daily mental operating system, installing permanent alignment. You don't rise to your intentions, you fall to your systems. If your days are unstructured, your identity will drift. If your mornings are reactive, your mind becomes reactive. If your inputs are chaotic, your thinking becomes chaotic. So we build a mental operating system. Simple, repeatable, non-negotiable. This is how transformation becomes permanent.
Let's break it into phases of the day: morning, midday, evening. Not complicated, intentional. Morning. Identity activation. The first 30 minutes after waking are psychologically powerful. Your mind is transitioning from subconscious dominance to conscious control. This window is installation time. Do not immediately surrender it to notifications. No phone, no external noise. Instead, regulate your body first. Slow breathing, deep inhale, long exhale. Lower heart rate intentionally. Then activate identity. Ask, who am I today? Not emotionally, structurally. I am disciplined. I execute. I stay calm. I build. You are not hoping to feel it. You are declaring direction. Then visualize the most important action of the day. See yourself completing it. Calm, focused, controlled. You are priming neural pathways before friction appears. This reduces resistance later. Then move your body, even briefly. Movement signals alertness. Alertness increases executive control. The goal of the morning is simple. Start aligned, not reactive. Midday, performance stability. Most identity collapses happen midday. Energy dips, distraction rises, emotion creeps in. So we anchor stability. Before major tasks, pause. 3 slow breaths. Reset posture. Eliminate multitasking. Single task execution increases cognitive quality. Protect deep work time. Even 60 to 90 minutes of uninterrupted focus daily compounds massively over years. Guard it like leverage. Then monitor internal language. If frustration appears, correct it immediately. Not harshly, precisely. Instead of, "This is too much," shift to, "This is training." Language reframes stress as growth, and growth feels purposeful. Now here is a critical rule. Do not emotionally react to minor disruptions, traffic, delays, emails. These are regulation drills. Every inconvenience is an opportunity to reinforce identity. If you remain composed during small stressors, you strengthen control for larger ones. Evening, identity reinforcement. Night is review time. Not self-criticism, review. Ask, did my actions match my declared identity? Where did I hold standard? Where did I slip? If you slipped, do not shame yourself. Correct strategically. What adjustment will prevent repetition? Then acknowledge wins, even small ones, because the brain installs what it notices. If you only notice failure, you wire inadequacy. If you acknowledge alignment, you wire competence. Then mentally release the day. Do not carry unfinished emotion into sleep. Breathing, stillness, detach. Sleep quality determines cognitive strength tomorrow, and cognitive strength protects identity. Now let's zoom out. This operating system works because it reduces decision fatigue. You are not asking daily, should I be disciplined? You already decided. You are not asking, should I regulate emotion? You already trained it. System over mood, structure over impulse. Now understand this deeper layer. Consistency in small systems creates psychological momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reduces hesitation. Reduced hesitation increases opportunity capture. Opportunity capture increases results. Results reinforce identity. That is the compounding loop. But here's the danger: perfectionism. You will not execute flawlessly every day, and expecting perfection creates collapse when mistakes happen. Instead, aim for alignment percentage. If you operate at 80% alignment consistently, you dominate long term. Progress over perfection. always. Now let's address distraction. Your attention is currency. Where attention goes, identity grows. If you spend hours consuming chaos, your mind becomes scattered. Curate inputs deliberately. Books that elevate thinking, conversations that expand perspective, silence that sharpens awareness. Protect your cognitive diet, because information installs beliefs subtly. Now here's something powerful. You do not need motivation if you have identity clarity. Motivation fluctuates, identity sustains. If someone asks you, "Why are you so consistent?" the answer becomes simple. This is who I am. That statement eliminates negotiation. Now imagine running this operating system for 12 months. Morning activation, midday regulation, evening review. 12 months of identity reinforcement. You would not just feel different, you would be neurologically different, behaviorally different, financially different, emotionally different. Because repetition rewires baseline. Baseline determines trajectory, and trajectory determines life quality. Now breathe. Feel the control in this structure. You are no longer hoping to change. You are engineering change. In the final phase, we seal this permanently. We move from system to irreversible identity shift, not temporary upgrade, permanent evolution. Stay focused. We finish strong.
Final identity lock-in. The point of no return. There comes a moment in every real transformation where analysis must end, where preparation must end, where waiting must end, and identity must be chosen, not explored, chosen. Up until now, you have understood how you were programmed, how scripts run automatically, how identity overrides willpower, how fear disguises itself as logic, how the brain rewires through repetition, how discipline builds self-trust, how wealth reflects internal baseline, how emotional regulation creates power, how compounding builds permanence. Now comes the only thing that matters: decision. Not emotional decision, structural decision. The kind that quietly says there is no going back. Because here is the truth most people avoid. You cannot casually evolve. You cannot keep one foot in your old identity and one foot in your new one. You must burn negotiation, not dramatically, internally. At some point, you stop asking, "Will I stay consistent?" and you declare, "I don't break commitments." At some point, you stop asking, "Can I handle pressure?" and you declare, "I expand capacity." At some point, you stop saying, "I'm trying to change," and you state, "I have changed." Identity locks when language locks, and language locks when decision becomes non-negotiable. Now understand this clearly. There will still be hard days. There will still be stress. There will still be discomfort. The difference is this: you no longer interpret discomfort as a reason to retreat. You interpret it as confirmation of growth. That shift is irreversible, because once you see the mechanism, you cannot unsee it. Once you understand your programming, you cannot blame fate. Once you understand rewiring, you cannot claim helplessness. Responsibility increases, but so does power. Now pause. Imagine yourself 1 year from today, operating from this identity daily, calm under pressure, disciplined in action, strategic with money, emotionally composed, consistent in standards. That version is not dramatic, it is stable, and stability is dominance over time. Now imagine 5 years, your network upgraded,
Your income expanded, your body stronger, your thinking sharper, your emotional baseline steady, your reputation reliable. That is not luck, that is compounded identity. But here is the final layer most people never reach. You stop chasing transformation because transformation becomes your default state. You become someone who evolves automatically, someone who corrects quickly, someone who reflects nightly, someone who adapts strategically, someone who does not collapse emotionally. That is mental wealth, and mental wealth precedes all other wealth. Now listen carefully. There is a version of you that already knows this is possible. A quiet voice that says, you are capable of more. That voice has always been there. It was just covered by noise, fear, doubt, old scripts, external conditioning. Now the noise is lower, clarity is higher, and clarity demands action. So here is the lock. From this moment forward, you do not negotiate with weakness. You observe it, you correct it, you move. You do not dramatize setbacks. You analyze them, you adjust, you continue. You do not shrink for comfort. You expand with control. You do not react impulsively. You respond deliberately. You do not chase motivation. You operate on structure. You do not identify with limitation. You identify with growth. And when you slip, because you will sometimes slip, you recover faster than ever before, because recovery speed defines mastery. Now breathe deeply. Slow inhale, long exhale. Feel the steadiness in your body. That steadiness is available anytime you choose it, and choice is power. You were programmed once unconsciously. Now you program yourself consciously. You once reacted automatically. Now you respond intentionally. You once drifted. Now you design. This is not a motivational peak. This is a baseline reset. Calm, stable, permanent. There is no dramatic ending here, because real evolution does not need applause. It needs repetition. And repetition begins now. Move forward deliberately. Build daily. Protect standards. Compound quietly. And let time reveal what disciplined identity creates. This is the point of no return. Welcome to the upgraded version of you.